Welcome to another deep dive.
Okay, so are you ready to jump into this?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, we're taking a deep dive today into, well, a pretty intense moment in Mexican history. It's Claudia Sheinbaum's first day as president, October 2nd, 2024.
First day. Wow.
Right. You'd think, victory lap, celebrations.
Right.
But not Sheinbaum. She decides to address the 1968 Tlatelolco massacre head-on.
And that's, talk about setting the tone. It's the anniversary of this brutal government crackdown on student protesters. For her to choose this on day one tells you something.
It's heavy stuff. And for her, it's not just history. Her own mother was a professor who supported the movement and faced consequences. Sheinbaum was just a kid, but you can bet that stayed with her.
Oh, absolutely. It's got to be deeply personal. This isn't some distant event. It's her family, her history. It adds a whole other level to everything she's saying.
Totally. And she starts by making sure everyone understands what happened. Before any speeches or anything, she has an 11-minute video played about the 68 student movement.
Wow. Okay.
We don't have the video in our sources, but just picturing it, the protests, the violence, it must set a powerful tone.
No, totally. It's like she's bringing everyone into that moment with her. These weren't just statistics. They were students, activists, everyday people fighting for change. Some for basic freedoms, others for social justice. It was a generation demanding to be heard. And the government's response. Brutal doesn't even cover it.
No, it was horrific. Live ammunition fired into crowds, hundreds killed, thousands injured, and so many just disappeared.
And for decades, silence, a refusal to even acknowledge what happened.
Exactly. Which is why what Sheinbaum does next is so striking. She doesn't just, offer condolences. She calls the student movement a triumph. Think about that.
She's connecting their fight directly to her presidency.
Wow. Like she's saying, this win, this is your win too.
Powerful. She's weaving it into the president, into her entire identity as a leader. And then to really drive it home, she brings out Pablo Gómez.
Oh, wow. Yeah. A former student activist who was imprisoned after the 68 protests.
A living legend. Having him there, speaking to that experience, you could have heard a pin drop.
It lends so much weight to everything being said. And Gómez doesn't hold back. He talks about how the movement was always about fighting for a more democratic Mexico, about pushing back against decades of repression, students, workers, anyone who dared to challenge the system, really.
Right. They were targeted. And he tackles all the misinformation head-on, too. Those conspiracy theories that the movement was some foreign plot, a danger to national security.
Which is ludicrous, of course.
Gómez sets the record straight. We were fighting for our rights, for the soul of our country, he says.
Powerful stuff. And he connects it to today, too. Draws a direct line from the spirit of 68 to what's happening in Mexico now. He even ties it into Sheinbaum's own political party, the Fourth Transformation Movement.
It's like he's passing the torch, saying, this fight, it's not over. It's your turn now. And you can feel that weight in the room, the legacy of this movement, this fight for a better Mexico. It's like a direct line from their struggle to her presidency.
It's incredible. And Sheinbaum, she doesn't shy away from it, not one bit. After Gómez's speech, she moves to the formal part of the address. And, well, this is where it gets really interesting. She issues a decree. This decree officially acknowledges the 1968 massacre as a crime against humanity.
Wow. Hold on a second. This is huge. For decades, the government downplayed it, denied it, even justified it.
Right.
This decree, it's a public admission of guilt, state-sponsored violence officially recognized. And that's not just symbolic.
So what kind of implications are we talking? Does this mean like prosecutions?
Yeah.
Reparations?
All of that's on the table now. People are asking those questions, and for good reason. But even beyond the legal stuff, think about what this does to how we see history. This decree, it forces Mexico to confront this dark chapter, to say, yeah, this happened and we were wrong.
Wow. 56 years later. It's something at least.
It is, and it makes you wonder, why now, But regardless, it's a turning point.
Definitely. But hold on, there's more. Sheinbaum goes even further. She issues a formal public apology.
To the victims, you mean?
To the victims, their families, but also to all of Mexican society.
It's an acknowledgement of the collective trauma, that this event, it didn't just impact those directly involved. The fear, the silencing, it scarred the whole nation.
It's heavy stuff. Even just reading the transcript, you can feel it. But Sheinbaum, she's not done yet. She goes on to do a Q&A with the press, and you get a real sense of her leadership from this.
Yeah, it's a smart move. After something that heavy, she opens up the floor, shows she's ready to engage.
And she doesn't shy away from the tough topics either. Like right away, she's asked about security. which, I mean, big issue in Mexico.
Huge issue. And she doesn't just give vague answers either. She outlines a 4-point plan. What's interesting is she emphasizes youth outreach as a key part of it.
Okay, so what, like after-school programs, PSAs?
Think deeper. It's about addressing why there's so much violence, especially among young people. Poverty, lack of opportunities, the feeling that the system's rigged against them. She's talking about giving them a real future, reason to believe.
Interesting. That's a different approach. It's usually just more police, tougher laws.
Right. This is more about long-term solutions.
We'll see if she can pull it off.
Exactly, but it's a start.
And then there's her stance on the judicial branch, which, let's be honest, things haven't been great between them and the executive branch, right?
Oh, it's been tense. Accusations of corruption, political maneuvering, questions of independence. It's a minefield.
So how does she handle it?
Carefully. Very carefully. She acknowledges the tensions, but emphasizes how crucial an independent judiciary is. It's a tough line to walk. Pushing for reform, but also respecting that separation of powers. She's doing all right so far, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm seeing a pattern here. It's like she's acknowledging the past, but not dwelling on it.
Trying to move forward without forgetting.
Exactly. And you see that same approach with the Spain thing. Remember how the previous president demanded an apology from Spain for, the whole conquest thing?
Oh, yeah. And Spain basically said, yeah, not happening.
Pretty much.
Oh.
So where does Sheinbaum stand?
She's still critical of Spain. She brings up how they haven't acknowledged their own history, which, she even connects it back to Mexico's own denial about Tlatelolco.
Oh, wow. So she's calling out the hypocrisy. I like it.
It's a bold move, not afraid to speak her mind, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Which, speaking of uncomfortable, what about the whole issue of past presidents?
Oh, you mean will she go after them?
Yeah, will she pursue legal action for corruption, human rights abuses, all of it?
Because, there's a lot to potentially uncover there.
A lot. And what does she say? She won't pursue legal action.
Wait, really? That doesn't seem to track with her whole justice and accountability thing.
Right. But then she explains her reasoning, and it's actually pretty interesting. She says history and the Mexican people will be the judge. She doesn't want to get bogged down in legal battles. She wants to build a better future.
It's like she's saying, look, they'll get what's coming to them, but it's not going to be in some courtroom. It'll be the court of public opinion. Bold move. Could backfire too, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. It's a gamble. She's putting her faith in, transparency. The idea that by airing everything out, it'll prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, it's a long game, that's for sure.
But maybe that's the whole point here. She's not looking for quick fixes. She wants to fundamentally change things. And you see this in how she talks about supporting Mexican migrants abroad, too.
Oh, yeah, that really struck me. You can tell he cares about this issue.
It's not just words either. She talks about specific actions, like making the consulate experience better, more supportive. Which, let's be real, for a lot of these folks, the consulate, it's their only real link to Mexico.
It's a lifeline.
Exactly. And she gets that. You see a different side of her there. More human, more empathetic.
It's refreshing, honestly. Especially these days when everything's so polarized. It's like she's trying to build bridges instead of walls.
And that's what's so fascinating about this whole deep dive, right? We're not just picking apart a speech. We're seeing how a leader chooses to approach these huge, complicated issues, especially on day one.
It makes you think,
Yeah.
If you were suddenly in charge, where would you even begin?
Right. It's overwhelming. But Sheinbaum, she seems to be approaching it with a mix of, clear-eyed realism, but also this, cautious optimism.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, so big picture, what do we take away from all of this?
Well, for me, it's that acknowledging the past, really confronting it head on, that's powerful. It's not enough on its own, but it's a necessary first step. And she's doing that on a national scale.
It's a powerful message. And it kind of feels universal, it applies everywhere, not just Mexico. Facing our history, trying to build a better future.
Totally. And that's what makes this so thought-provoking. Because the question is, what do we do with this now? How do we take these ideas of justice, of accountability, and actually apply them in our own lives, in our own communities? That's what I'll be thinking about anyway.
Me too. Definitely something to chew on. Well, on that note, that's another deep dive in the books. Thanks for geeking out with me on this one.